Welcome, Maverick families and friends. My name is Reno Medina, and I am the principal of Costa Canyon High School. Presenting with me today are my amazing assistant principals, Dr. Bobby Coy, Jamie Garman, and Leo Fletes. Like many of you, we are eager to get our Mavericks back on campus. Over the last 4 months, there have been shifts in timelines, but as a Maverick family, we continue to move forward with our planning to onboard students. Today, we will cover 2 main topics. One is our plan for providing our Mavericks with an option to safely transition to on-campus learning through distance learning, or the option to continue with distance learning at home. The second topic, and more immediate transition, will be our adjusted pilot bell schedule to support wellness and flexibility for all Mavericks. As a means for us to obtain your questions during our presentation, there will be a QR code at the end of the presentation for you to access. As we move forward with our decision making, the vision and core values for this year remain grounded in the wellness and engagement for all Mavericks. We have listened to our students, we have listened to our teachers, and we have listened to our community. Why adjust the bell schedule on November 16th? There are 3 key reasons for our decision. 1, we know distance learning for both learning and teaching remains a challenge for many. But we also know we have many students and staff members who are overwhelmed. We needed to provide more time and flexibility for students and staff to balance their work sooner instead of waiting until January 2021. 2, with a plan to onboard students 1 time a week with the projection date of January 4th, 2021, we need to create a bell schedule that not only increases the opportunity for wellness and supports for students, but also provides logistical structures to support continuity of instruction. 3, we needed to provide a runway for students and teachers to adjust to allow a smooth transition after winter break. Here is the weekly schedule. Monday and Thursday, students will attend periods 1, 3, 5, 7. And on Tuesday and Fridays, students will attend periods 2, 4, and 6. Wellness Wednesday is a single period day where students will have the even periods and their odd periods. Throughout the schedule, we maintained our student learning support, or SLS times, both in the morning and afternoons. The first question that was raised was, how can putting all the periods in one day support wellness? I will elaborate on our next Wellness Wednesday slide. The major factor providing the wellness piece is the shift with the flexibility with asynchronous and synchronous instruction, with an emphasis on wellness and balance for workloads. The goal is to balance the workload for students on this day so they're able to manage the rest of the week. Students will have a longer asynchronous start to the day, allowing for an opportunity to prepare and balance their workload, while SLS time provides opportunities for staff development, collaboration, and workload balance. In addition, students will have the opportunity for increased asynchronous assignments, office hours, and check-ins. Each teacher will have their own approach to how they deliver their asynchronous and synchronous instruction, but the focus will remain on wellness and balance for all Mavericks. As a preview to the future on-campus learning model, Wellness Wednesday, all students remain home for distance learning. More details will be provided about this later in our presentation. We look forward to addressing any questions related to our adjusted bell schedule in our coffee tomorrow. Please remember, we will begin this new schedule the week of November 16th. Where are we and where are we going next? As I mentioned before, we are looking forward to getting all Mavericks back on campus. Over the last 2 months, we have onboarded small groups of students, both academic support and extracurricular activities. What is happening now? At this time, all students are learning from home through distance learning, with the exception of small groups of students in specific priority areas who come to campus but are still working through distance learning platform. As evident by our presentation today, we continue to educate our community about the phased in learning options for our Mavericks. What are our next steps? After we've provided our LCC community with the detailed information about our plan for learning options for students, we will survey our community in a couple of weeks to see if you want your students to continue 100% learning from home or the option to learn from school one time per week. Both options use the distance learning platform. The important element is families will have choice. The instructional model will be described by Mrs. Garman later in our presentation. As we develop our plan, our focus involved 4 key elements: a safe campus with procedures, an effective learning model, staffing the campus, and contingency planning. The effective learning model includes distance learning from home and school, professional development for staff, and infrastructure. These are the key elements we continue to focus on to allow us to provide students with a safe, sustainable, and successful learning environment, no matter what the circumstance might be in the future. As I mentioned earlier, we are working toward addressing any questions during our coffee tomorrow. I am pleased to turn over the next portion of the presentation to my extraordinary assistant principals. I believe Mr. Fletes is going to take it from here. Mr. Fletes.
Thank you, Mr. Medina. As we prepare to have students back on campus, we have worked with teacher, classified, and custodial staff to make sure our campus is prepared and ready to go when students come back. All of our staff members have received personal protection equipment, or PPE, as you will hear throughout the presentation. We have walked around our campus and put procedures in place to make sure everyone feels safe and comfortable when they return. Dr. Goy?
In order to make the campus as safe as possible, LCC administrators and staff have worked to ensure that the safety of students and teachers remains paramount. With the guidance of our district's safe reopening plan, we have developed procedures for students to navigate before, during, and after school. First, before students return to campus, each family must review, sign, and return to campus our district health and safety agreement. This agreement outlines our district's expectations regarding symptom checking, health screenings, face coverings, and more. This document must be returned to LCC before students will be permitted to return to on-campus learning. When students return to campus, they will be health screened each morning. These health screenings include a series of questions regarding potential COVID-like symptoms and exposure to individuals with COVID within the past 48 hours. These screenings will take place at multiple locations around the campus. While students are on campus, directional signs will provide them with specific entrances and egresses, as well as pathways that will minimize traffic and ensure that students are walking in the same direction between classrooms and quads. In addition, restrooms and other locations will be marked with maximum occupancy signs and 6 feet indicators to help remind students about the importance of social distancing. While students are on campus, our district will provide free breakfast and lunch for all students. Seniors will continue to have off-campus lunch privileges. However, food deliveries, like Uber Eats or DoorDash, are not allowed. Students will be encouraged and reminded to socially distance at all times, including during lunch. Lastly, as we allow during the typical school day, students will be permitted to leave campus during their unscheduled periods.
Here we have an aerial look at our campus. In this map, we have placed the locations of where students and staff will do their symptom screening, as Bobby has indicated. For those that walk or get dropped off at the flagpole or the turnaround circle, they will enter through the main gate near our new Maverick Park. Those that drive onto campus, as we have always done, you will enter through the top entrance, making the first available left, and parking in the student parking section closest to the 400 gate. Here you will do your symptom screening and check-in at the 400 gates. To better make sure all of our learning areas are properly cleaned, our custodial staff has placed signs such as this at each door to indicate the key touch points and a signed-in sheet for them to fill out daily. These forms help our custodial staff know to work on these particular classrooms or teacher or student areas. These daily cleaning logs, located wherever any student or staff member might be, or where they might enter.
LCC and our district have worked to ensure that our classrooms are safe. In addition to the daily cleanings just detailed by Mr. Fletes, students will be socially distanced to the maximum extent possible during their classes. In addition, each classroom will be properly ventilated using MERV 8 filters. Air purifiers have been purchased and are being placed in every classroom. Also, pop-up tents will be provided to allow for flexible outdoor learning space. To assist with proper hygiene, hand washing stations have been strategically placed around the campus. Also, face masks will be worn by students, teachers, and staff at all times. In order to support cleanliness in the classroom, all LCC teachers have been provided with hand sanitizer, wipes, gloves, face masks, a face shield, and plexiglass dividers. Here's a quick look inside and outside our classrooms that have been set up for on-campus learning. You will see pop-up tent space outside some classrooms, providing rooms for outdoor flexible learning space. Also, areas of the classroom have been taped off, providing a distance of 6 feet between students and staff. And plexiglass protectors have been provided for teachers. You will also notice desks that are distanced from one another, allowing for students to remain apart during their on-campus learning. And finally, Chromebooks, allowing the students to connect to the distance learning lessons. As we get closer to the January opening date, students can expect to see signage across campus, reminding them of the importance of social distancing, proper hygienic practices like washing hands or using hand sanitizer, and wearing a mask at all times. We are touring with some statements such as, "It is utterly important, and the stakes are high, so wash your hands," or "You don't need a calculator to measure 6 feet," or "You heard that right, you must wear a mask." There is no bull about it. We hope these signs will assist in creating a successful and sustainable learning experience for all Mavericks.
Our district is partnering with the San Diego County Office of Education to provide COVID routine testing for all staff. Our LCC staff will be required to be tested for COVID at least once every 2 months. If a staff member, student, or visitor becomes ill, the site will use an isolation room or area to separate anyone who exhibits symptoms of COVID until they can be transported home or to a healthcare provider as soon as practicable. All areas used by any sick person will be closed off. To reduce risk of exposure, the site will wait 24 hours before it's cleaned and disinfected. If it is not possible to wait 24 hours, the site will wait as long as feasible. You can reference our district safe reopening plan to review these procedures in more detail. If a student is exhibiting symptoms of COVID, staff will communicate with site administration and they will work with our district nurse to communicate with the parent or caregiver and refer to the student's health history to identify if a student has a chronic health condition or if the symptoms are new and not typical for the individual. If your student tests positive for COVID, immediately communicate with LCC or the district COVID liaison to notify local health officials and staff immediately of any positive case of COVID, while maintaining confidentiality as required under FERPA and state law related to privacy of educational records. The district nurse will work in collaboration with site administration to coordinate notifications out to families. If our school receives information that an individual on campus has tested positive for COVID, the district plan immediately puts into action procedures which include student contact tracing protocols, identification of close contacts, notification to close contacts, and notification to the school community. What type of communication is done if a person on campus has tested positive? In the event of a positive case, close contacts receive direct communication. Members of the school community will also receive a letter notifying them that an individual has tested positive on campus. Privacy laws prohibit releasing any information that could identify the individual. What is close contact? Close contact is defined as someone who has been within less than 6 feet of a positive case for 15 or more minutes in the period 48 hours prior to when the positive individual begins experiencing symptoms, or the date the test is taken if the individual is asymptomatic. Although classrooms are arranged so that students are seated at least 1 meter apart and 6 feet when feasible, at various points throughout the day, such as arrival, breaks, and lunch, it is impossible to guarantee that students will always remain 6 feet or more away from one another. Out of an abundance of caution, our district policy identifies all individuals in the classroom, including the teacher, as close contacts in the event of possible exposure. What if an individual in a classroom has a positive COVID test? Individuals in the class of the person who tested positive are directed to quarantine for 14 days from the date of exposure. The class, including the teacher, will shift to remote distance learning for the days of quarantine. It is not possible for a teacher to teach half of the class through remote distance learning and half of the class who are at school in person, while themselves are required to stay home. Therefore, in the event that half of the class is placed on quarantine, the other half of the class will be supervised in the physical classroom by a substitute teacher, and if able, the teacher will continue to provide distance learning instruction while quarantined at home. Please reference the student symptom decision tree document if necessary to determine when it is safe for your student to return to the school campus. What warrants a school closure? Individual school closures are recommended based on the number of cases, the percentage of the teachers, students, and staff that are positive for COVID, and following consultation with county health officials. A future school closure may be warranted pending potential increases of positive cases at LCC. And if necessary, our school community must remain ready to pivot back to full distance learning to maintain the continuity of education for our students and staff. Due to the need for our instructional model to remain flexible, provide options for our families, and to provide the ability to pivot from on-campus back to full at-home learning if necessary, we will remain on our current distance learning model. This model provides access to smaller groups attending on-campus classes on their assigned days, while others are learning remotely from home. It also allows for our families to have the flexibility to select for their students to remain on full distance learning. Students will receive the same distance learning instruction, whether in the classroom or at home, to provide equitable access for all students. Teachers may circulate the physical classroom while maintaining recommended social distancing to provide additional support to students in the classroom when they're not providing class instruction, such as during asynchronous learning activities. All students will be checked out of Chromebook for distance learning while in the classroom and at home. Until our district one-to-one technology shipment arrives, we would encourage students to bring their own devices, headphones, and chargers if possible. Our teachers will continue to be provided professional development opportunities to strengthen our instructional delivery practices to simultaneously meet the needs of our on-campus and at-home learners. Students choosing to return to LCC campus 1 day per week will be assigned a student group. In this example, distinguished the groups by Group A, B, C, or D, based on alpha breakdowns by last names. This chart is a draft showing a sample breakdown, an example of how in-person days will be assigned and how the days will alternate. Again, this is just a draft and not finalized. Student group assignments will not be finalized until we have our survey results with the identified students committing to return to on-campus instruction. One of the many benefits of our new bell schedule is the consistency of our block schedule, with our even-odd classes falling on a consistent day of the week. Mondays and Thursdays, unless there's a holiday that falls in the instructional week, will be consistently class periods 1, 3, 5, and 7. Tuesdays and Fridays will consistently be 2, 4, and 6 period classes. Students returning to campus will be assigned to either an alternating every other week Monday-Tuesday schedule or an alternating every other week Thursday-Friday schedule in order to see all of their teachers once every other week. On Wednesdays, all students will learn from home during our flexible synchronous-asynchronous single period bell schedule. The assigned student groups by the yet to be determined last name alpha breakdowns will allow for, in most cases, siblings to attend on the same day of the week, and for the in-person capacity in the physical classrooms on any given day to be approximately 25% of the total class size pending our survey results. Unfortunately, we discussed the option of splitting the students by grade level to provide them more interaction with their same grade peers when assigning a day of the week for in-person instruction. However, this would not allow for safe class sizes for grade level specific classes such as English 12 or 10th grade world history. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Medina.
Thank you, Mrs. Garman. Research tells us that one of the strongest indicators for student success is the teacher in the classroom. We continue to take pride in our Maverick teaching staff. As you can imagine, the current conditions have created challenges for many. For various and good reasons, some of our staff may need to take a leave during this time to take care of themselves and their families. As a result, we have seen an increase in the amount of substitutes on our campus. We're working diligently with human resources to maintain continuity of instruction, recruitment, and to acquire additional staffing to support this crucial portion of our plan. As we develop our plans, we continue to keep in mind the need to be flexible and have the ability to shift depending on county and health department guidelines. As Mrs. Garman stated, our instructional model needs to be flexible, provide options for all of our families, and to provide the ability to pivot from on-campus back to full at-home learning if necessary. We will remain on our current distance learning model. It also needs to be able to scale up to welcome all of our Mavericks back when it's safe to do so. Moving forward, what are the next steps? All families will be given access to a survey from November 16th to November 30th. Each family will be asked to consider one of two possible choices. First choice, my student will opt to continue with distance learning from home with their current schedule. Second choice, my student will opt to return to campus one day a week following their current schedule. We look forward to a future question and answer session to be held to address any questions during the week of November 16th to support you with your decision. I want to thank my assistant principals for their work with developing this plan and presenting with me today. Please remember to access the QR code on the slide to ask questions related to our presentation. We look forward to hosting our principal's coffee tomorrow, Friday morning at 8:15. We'll send out the meeting link through SignalKit and also post it on our website. The coffee will also be recorded for those families who are not able to attend. We will focus on addressing the questions surrounding the new bell schedule as it will be implemented in the near future. An additional question and answer session will be held during the week of November 16th, addressing questions related to options for learning after winter break and the upcoming survey. As always, be the difference, be the change, be a Maverick. Thank you for your time, and go Mavs.